Good evening, everybody. Let's get started. My name is Mark Friedenberg. I'm the faculty coordinator for tonight's event, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to Final Pitches for the 2026 Penn State Startup Week Bardusch Family IdeaMakers Challenge. The purpose, what our competition is all about tonight and what it has been for the past couple months for the teams that are competing tonight. It's an early stage business idea competition. Our undergraduate student teams have identified problems and have pitched solutions to those problems that involve digital innovation in some way. And I'm really looking forward to you being able to see the great ideas that all of our teams have come up with tonight. For the teams and what our judges are going to be looking at tonight are the idea's value, the target audience, the relevancy, and the technology that's used as part of their solution. And what has brought us here tonight, I guess, is many things, but just for this competition, our student teams submitted applications, some in the fall semester, some very early in this spring semester. I made an initial cut down to 8 teams that participated in semifinals last week. We have 6 teams that made it through that early filter to tonight's competition. They've gotten feedback, teams from me, from our judge, Matt Bellingeri, who participated in semifinals last week, and they've further refined their ideas for tonight's competition. So the teams that are here tonight, the finalists, are competing for awards in the final round of competition tonight, and I'm sure that they're all going to get a lot out of the process. I wanted to thank the Bardusch family for creating the endowment that supports student entrepreneurs in the College of IST, and that makes tonight possible. And we're very lucky to have Bob Bardusch with us here this evening. And I know Bob would like to just share a few words, if that's. Oh, is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted to. Yeah, thank.
Yeah. No, this is great. I love this competition. I've been on the board at the IST for, I think almost 25 years. What? Oh, better. Almost 25 years. And when this competition came up, I kind of followed it, and when the ability to kind of endow it arose, I just couldn't pass it up. I've watched so many pitches, and I've been in, I watch lots of competitions, and I've invested in early stage companies, and it's just, the passion and the ingenuity that you come up with is just amazing. So great job, for everything that you've done, for all the work that you've done. I'm looking forward to the pitches, and good luck.
Okay, great. So I'd like to next welcome our guest judges for tonight. We have Dave Koslow, is the Chief Operating Officer at Pledge It. Thank you, Dave. John Estevez, co-founder and principal at ME2 Consulting. Hermes is the Director of Developer Relations and Partner Engineering at Agora. Hopefully I said that right? Agora, okay, great. We actually have 5. Steve Grilly, Senior Director of Commercial Operations and Angel Investor. Thank you for being here. And Doug Balog has had a 37-year career as an executive roles in IBM and is also involved in the startup community. So thank you very much, all 5 judges, for being here tonight. So our competition format, we have 6 teams. Each of them will be presenting for about 6 minutes, followed by approximately 3 minutes for Q&A from the judges. Up front here, our events team will give each of the teams warnings when they're running out of time. The timer will be paused if we have any technical issues, but that's never happened before, so that won't be an issue. We'll restart the timer for the 3-minute Q&A session. But judges, if you want to go longer, of course, that's your prerogative to do so. So our teams know the order for tonight, but we have 6 teams that will be Medusa first, Forksight, Esters, Krypton, Digilib, and Stay Stocked. So I think without any further ado, we are ready for Team Medusa to come on up. And please join me in welcoming Team Medusa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This is our pitch for Medusa. My name is Isabella Masso, and I'm a major in cybersecurity.
My name is Rosa Vandenberg, and I'm also a cybersecurity major.
Millions of women post on social media. Unbeknownst to them, their regular lifestyle, fitness, and fashion content gets taken from those social media platforms and uploaded onto explicit sites and web forums without their consent and without recourse. My friend is a fitness influencer and a student athlete. She posts her workout routines, healthy eating habits, and regular lifestyle tips. Recently, we found that her content was being posted onto these sites. During our research to find how many of these sites she has been on, we found hundreds of other girls facing the same problem. This slide is just a snippet of all the things that we found during our research. The posts include names, colleges, and sports teams. And there are even specific subforums for different teams. Surveys show that out of 800 women, 1 in 4 face this problem. And for us, that's too many.
So here's our solution, Medusa. Medusa continuously scans the web for unauthorized reposts of your content. When a match is found, you confirm it and Medusa handles the rest. Takedown requests, DMCA claims are filed automatically without you having to know what any of that means. A dashboard is then created to help track the progress of your reports and let you know if they need to be escalated. No legal knowledge required, no more hours spent hunting through forms, and no more waiting and hoping a platform does the right thing. You posted it, you own it, and Medusa makes sure it stays that way.
When a user first comes on our platform, they create a profile. The profile includes uploading 7 to 10 pictures, preferably photos that have already been online, and answering questions to fill out for our keyword matching. When the photos are uploaded, the system converts the photos into a mathematic number called a faceprint. Those faceprints are then scanned across a pre-built index of over billions of images that have been converted to those same faceprints. When a match is found, the user is alerted and they decide whether that photo is them and whether they want the post taken down. If they respond in the affirmative, then there are 2 types of ways that we can take down their posts automatically. The first is through platform APIs. Companies like YouTube and Reddit have their own APIs built in for copyright infringement. So the easiest way would be to just go through them. And the second is through browser automation. This is for the smaller platforms that don't have APIs built in, and they use web forms to take these requests. So we would use a headless browser to fill in all the data that came from the user's profile and submit that on their behalf.
So who does Medusa protect? We are primarily targeting young women because they are affected by this issue the most. A disproportionate amount of posts are of student athletes, so they're our next biggest target market. As far as including Medusa in the general life on campus, we would like to partner with Title IX offices. As of 2024, they operate under a bigger definition of sexual harassment that includes this kind of content. There's also no protocol in place for them to take down these posts, as it's just they push it onto the athletes or the students and say they have to manually report it. We'd also like to partner with women's organizations on campus like sororities and then national advocacy organizations. So our revenue model, we would charge $9 a month, which is inclusive of the cost of API calling, database hosting, and building out the front end. We'd also like to offer the option to upgrade to advanced scanning, which would just include a more robust profile and then video scanning. And then as far as where we want to go, we believe that private contracts with websites and platforms like Reddit, Cloudflare, YouTube would help us execute our mission in taking down these posts as fast as possible. We'd also like to get a part of Google's trusted copyright removal program. And then as far as what other subjects Medusa could touch on in the future, we believe that general online hygiene fits well into this product.
There are 3 types of markets that Medusa ties into: reputational management, automated takedown services, and facial recognition services. The aspect that makes Medusa different is that it takes all 3 of those and combines it into one platform, while also helping to guide our platform for users who regardless of their technical expertise, can use this platform. It's reported that 57% of Gen Z are interested in becoming influencers. So with the rise of influencer culture and with the rise of online exposure, this issue only becomes more prevalent. And that's our presentation. Thank you for listening. We'll take questions.
First of all, great job. And this is a very interesting space in terms of not just for women, but people in general, and with the deep fakes and things of that nature. Your revenue model is proposed around charging the people, but is there other opportunities that you could take to generate revenue for this in a way that doesn't put the onus completely on your user base?
Yes, we actually have team plans built out as well, because we did mention that we would want to be inclusive of like student orgs, Title IX offices, but also companies in general. Eventually, I would want to expand Medusa out to protect regular private firms in just upkeeping their own online hygiene, preventing spear phishing campaigns. So these are 2 that we have built out right now. They are most geared towards like sororities, college teams, things like that. But there is definitely room for improvement to expand to those other platforms.
Great presentation. I echo it. Well done. Your 3 steps that you combined together to provide this service, is that anything in that proprietary at this point, or what would stop somebody from, it's a great idea, don't get me wrong, but what would stop somebody from potentially replicating what your concepts are?
So there is really nothing stopping from someone from replicating this. However, the market to target student athletes and young women in college, they have not tapped into it. I don't think a lot of people know this is an issue. When we were making that collage, we found hundreds of subreddits, thousands of posts, thousands of websites that just take normal photos and put these online. And the people that are running these big, corporations, they're not really tapped into young women, especially college young women. I don't think that's really who they're talking to on a day-to-day basis. A lot of older people do not know this is a problem. So, nothing prevents them from copying this, but would they think of it? Probably not.
Great presentation. I'll agree with my other 2 colleague judges here. I think you said 6 photo upgrades. You upload 6 photos, and that have you tested that in terms of 6 photos enough to do the proper facial recognition?
So I've actually used software like this for open source intelligence. We have a mutual friend, and she does social media, and her stuff ends up everywhere. And there's this software called PimEyes that I utilize to find out where her stuff has gone. And honestly, it works with 3 photos. So 6 is generous. The more photos you put in, the better it gets as making a similarity score. It takes facial measurements from like unique, positioning where how far your eyes are. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. But yeah, 6 photos is plenty.
But it sounded like you were thinking about an upgrade feature as well, that if you could put in more than 6 photos, and that would further qualify the search.
Yeah, it just makes the similarity score work better.
Right.
The more, data it has to pull from.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
and just echo great presentation. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what kind of what facet of the ideas you've kind of gone through your initial iterations? What facet has changed the most as you've talked to more users? What has changed dramatically? What's the biggest shift that you've seen, as in the last 90 days as you've kind of gone through this idea?
I think there are two. The first is how much it's going to cost to produce and how much we want to charge the user. And the second was how we would want to implement this idea, because we could take from open sourced models that are already on the internet, or we could build our own. So I think the two things that really changed a lot were those.
Yeah, great presentation. I just a little curious around what kind of data you both kind of went through and collected from talking to potential users and things like that.
So right now, just what I've collected from my friends who are unfortunately on a lot of these websites, either they're student athletes or they do social media, just photos of them to plug in. I already do a lot of this on behalf of my friends because the average, college student doesn't have the open source intelligence knowledge to find out where they are, where their photos are ending up online. So right now, just pulling from photos. I do a bit of keyword matching to find out where these photos are. There are some image boards where these photos end up and they do not put the full name of the person. They, as opposed to that, they put the full name with, like instead of an A, they'll do an @ instead of they'll do a 0. So I'll do some of that. The term for it is Google dorking, but it's just keyword matching at the end of the day.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Team Medusa. Okay, next up is Team Forksight.
Good evening, everyone. We are Team Forksight. My name is Robert.
I'm Eric.
I'm also Robert.
By a show of hands, how many of you have eaten out in the past week? That's most of you. Now, keep your hand raised if, when you went out and ate, that you had to worry about how your blood sugar would react to what you were eating. This is a common phenomenon that diabetics around the world have to face. And this is caused by, they may take the perfect amount of insulin, and in the process of eating their food, their body may metabolize it slowly or quickly, depending on how the food is produced. And from this, depending on the timing that the person uses their insulin, they may have a low blood sugar or a high blood sugar. And there are some serious complications involved with this, such as diabetic coma. And there's over 400,000 ER visits and 180,000 hospitalizations in the past year alone because of this. And this is due to poor nutritional information given to the consumer, along with the consumer doesn't know how the food is being processed. And this isn't an issue of carb counting and finding the perfect amount of insulin. This is due to how quickly the body metabolizes the sugar and how much of that sugar actually gets absorbed into the body. And this is defined by the glycemic index and glycemic load. And this speed of metabolism is caused by the macronutrient profile, along with how much fiber is in the food and how the food is being processed. And there are over 8 million diabetics who use insulin in the US alone, and there's a total addressable market of $1.3 billion. Now, this is where Forksight comes in.
Yeah, so here's a quick demo. So we were at Raising Cane's yesterday. So we got a box combo. So we just want to quickly enter that into our app. And most importantly, entering in the restaurant name. And then we want to take a quick photo of it. And then with the box combo, you also get a drink. So we had a unsweetened tea, 32 ounces. So we'll quickly add that as well as our second item within our meal. And then we'll also take another photo of that. And now you can also add in any optional nutritional information if you would want. And now you get the output, which is the 2 glycemic index and glycemic loads, confidence intervals, any nutritional information as well. And those two, glycemic index and loads, like that's for the entire meal, but you can obviously also expand upon that. And so this will be a glimpse into what Foresight is.
This is a little look at what happens behind the scenes. So a user would input an image and text, and we'd first search a database. And if we have the score and index, we just give that to the user. If not, we'd have to make a prediction. The first step to make a prediction is to assemble the features, the components of the meal itself, right? Restaurant meals could be complicated, lots of moving parts. And so we want to find things like macro, micronutrients, fiber, how the food is processed, if it's fried, simple versus complex sugars. We'd first look for this in a database, then we'd search the web. We could have an LLM kind of orchestrate this research and fill in the gaps. And then based on those features, we'd make a prediction. Another great thing is Foresight would get better over time. So in the beginning, we would ask users to voluntarily input their blood sugar reaction to the food. In the future, we'd want to partner with like continuous glucose monitoring systems to get real information. And eventually, we'd have a better understanding of glycemic index in general and a better way to predict it in the future.
Now that we understand our product Foresight, now let's look at the competitive landscape. And there are two primary types of competitors. There are the calorie counters, such as MyFitnessPal and Chronometer, who do a great job at counting your calories, but they do not give you a glycemic index or glycemic load. So you don't know how the body will react to the food that you eat. And there are other apps like Steady who actually do find a glycemic index, but do a really poor job at doing so. And now let's look at the operational roadmap and pricing strategy. So first, we will have phase one, where the app is free to all users. And this is to collect as much data as possible and as many foods as possible, and that we're able to optimize our algorithm. In phase two, we will prepare for FDA compliance and HIPAA compliance, along with beginning the partnerships with insurance companies and various continuous glucose monitor companies. And in phase three, we will actually start monetizing the app and put a paywall behind it from insurance providers and enterprise pricing strategies, where insurance companies will use a custom licensing and enterprise will do per seat pricing. And our marketing plan is to look at the user and inform them about the app and show them, hey, if you use our app, you're going to be able to have more consistent blood sugar and less highs and less lows. For the healthcare providers, we'll show them our data and show them that if you promote this app to your clients, that they're going to have more consistent blood sugar. And we'll talk to the insurance providers and show them that if you provide your insurees with this app, that you will have cost savings in the long run. And with the continuous glucose monitor companies, we'll show them that we're giving them a differentiator and an additional value proposition. And yeah, that is Foresight. And now we're open to questions.
I'll start off again. Nice job. And I guess my first question to you is, during the intake process, right, you use computer vision to understand what's on the plate. You then scrape the web and fill in the blanks with LLMs. How do you adjust for hallucination by the LLM, considering the data you're giving back is kind of critical to the end user not to like fall into a diabetic coma, let's say, right? So.
Right. So first, we'd want to look at our database. Obviously, a lot of basic nutrition information, like if you go to McDonald's, nutrition information is on the website. And so over time, we'd want to store these values. And we use the LLM to facilitate the search on the web to find the true values. And then you're right, in the final steps, maybe how the food is processed, it might not be spelled out. And so we have an LLM kind of explain that to us and put it into a feature. We definitely need a lot of rigorous testing, perhaps use some kind of rubric systems. LLMs are generally pretty optimistic, but if you give them like a rubric, like a strict guidelines to follow, it minimizes those hallucinations. But it's something we got to work with.
Yeah, again, great presentation. Can you talk more about, spoke about the insurance, the kind of the insurance importance in terms of ultimately being part of your go-to-market strategy. Can you elaborate on kind of precedents set by how you think that, insurance companies are the way to go in terms of them being most interested in the benefit they can provide ultimately to the folks that they are insuring?
Yeah, I guess it goes into what we were, maybe you asked a question to the Medusa team as well. We don't want to maybe make our users pay for it. And we think that insurance companies, they do have a lot of money, and we think there's some real cost savings there. If there's less hospitalizations, right? That's why we're doing it at the end. We'd eventually want to prove that we can have real impact. But reducing those costs, we think would incentivize insurance providers to work with us.
Yeah, we actually looked into this and to see how the amount of money that these diabetics have to fork over for whenever they do go to the hospital. And for a hyperglycemic episode where they have to go in to get their blood sugar regulated and fix their hyperglycemia, it costs over $1,000. So if we can reduce that to a substantial less frequency, then this will reduce the amount of costs that the insurance providers have to fork over for each occurrence of this episode.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys. So the system itself will identify the content in the food, but then that also has to be compared to the individual themselves. How, you might have said it and I might have missed it, but how do you handle the individual's vitals or ability to process the insulin and the product that they're consuming?
Right.
Is not everybody's the same, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So the glycemic index is it's a value that's associated with the food. So if you look up like corn syrup has a glycemic index value, a banana has a glycemic index value. So it's like a real scientific parameter associated with the food, not to the person, which is why we can get away with minimal FDA compliance in the first stages, because we're not providing medical advice. We're talking about a fact attributed to the food. That a person's reaction may be different to that fact, but knowing it still helps them. And then in later phases, when we do partner with continuous glucose monitors, we'd be able to make more individual recommendations. And those recommendations do require further compliance.
So if I paraphrase it, you're educating the consumer on what they're intaking. They then make a judgment on whether that is good or bad for them based on their knowledge of their systems.
Yes.
And their glycemic. Thank you.
And to go off of that, whenever we do integrate the continuous glucose monitor systems with our app, this will be added to the AI system, where it will actually be able to help predict with a higher degree of confidence what the actual glycemic index value would be, given all of the users' previous food that they've eaten and how their blood sugar in the past was affected by what they ate.
So kind of just on the technology front, continuing on that trend, just understanding. So, because I don't know the diabetic space well, right? It's not one I'm super familiar with. So the index is what you're providing. That's based on food content, right? You said that's out there. You go look up McDonald's, you can find it, right? So you're just helping bring that forward. The load is the way the person's body deals with that index. Is that kind of the way to think about load versus index?
They're both universal parameters. So it's calculated.
Yeah, I can speak better on this. So the glycemic index tells you essentially how quickly the body absorbs the blood sugar compared to 75 grams of glucose. And the glycemic load tells you how much of that sugar actually gets absorbed into the body. So an example would be
that's not personalized. That's
standardized across
that's standardized. Okay.
And as an example, a baked potato has a glycemic index value of 80. And this is a really, really high value, but it has a glycemic load of 1 or 2. And that's because it has a lot less of that sugar gets absorbed into the body than it would be perceived just by the glycemic index value alone.
It seems like the big thought here would be connected to the continuous monitors, right? And that's where you start to get a really personalized experience, right?
Yeah, that's the angle.
Okay, thanks. Great job.
Thank you very much, Team Foresight. Give the judges a moment to make their notes. Team Esters, you'll be up next if you want to head up. Everybody, please join me in welcoming Team Esters.
Do you have a dress? No? Okay. Do any of you guys have dresses? No, didn't think so.
As you guys can see, Amelia has a problem. She has an event later in the week that she's looking for a dress for, and nobody can help her. She can't find anything. Unfortunately, this is a pretty common issue. As you can see, we were able to compile several messages just from us and our friends in a similar situation. If we were able to find this many messages among the four of us, imagine how much it scales for an entire college campus. The problem that we are trying to solve is that event clothes are expensive and unsustainable. There are a lot of event wear items that are only worn once. Nobody wants to wear the same outfit to a third interview. So the easy solution to this is to just buy more clothing. Unfortunately, that gets really expensive very quickly. And also, as you buy more clothes, it becomes more and more unsustainable as you contribute to something called fast fashion. When you walk into a mall and you get a new set of clothing, you're contributing to this. And every year, 1.2 billion tons of carbon emissions are emitted globally because of fast fashion, which is 10% of total emissions globally. So another way around this, if you don't want to buy anything, is what if you text a friend and ask, do you have a dress that you can borrow? And as we saw earlier, that's not a very effective or reliable method. We also saw that 2 in 5 students will end up buying event wear that they only wear once, yet 51% of students say that they want to quit fast fashion. So it's not an issue of people not caring, it's just a lack of accessibility. So the solution that we're proposing is an app that allows you to connect students to their friends' closets and community closets. So instead of having to buy new clothing for every event, you're able to borrow and exchange with a trusted and reliable source. For the consumer, this is very beneficial because it lowers the cost, and for the planet, it's better because there's less emissions and less clothing being made. So it's not an issue of a lack of clothes, it's just being able to distribute it more effectively.
All right, so our app works with a 4-step process from going from verification to actually borrowing. First of all, with verification, our app is an invite-only app, and this ensures that we're making sure that the people on this app are using it for their direct purpose and at their campus college students. We verify their student status, and then we connect them to communities that they're already a part of, their sororities, their social groups, their friend groups, and then you can also invite your friends additionally too. Then afterwards, you can use it like a social app. You upload your closet and see what your friends and community wears. And when you have an item that you want to wear, you can ask your friend for it. And then you can also find the closets that are closer to you and be able to exchange in person. All right. So this makes sure that clothing, fast fashion is slowed down. And then we make sure that fashion is being reused and getting more than one use out of it.
So who exactly are we looking for? Our solution, we're hoping to attract students just like Mia who are involved in Greek life, sororities, whether that be frat sororities, social clubs, who don't have the time to deal with clothing crises. So here at Penn State, just to put it in perspective, 17% of undergraduate students are involved in Greek life, right? So at a study conducted at the University of Southern California, it was concluded that on average, a young woman in college needs about 20 dresses per year. Nationwide, there are 400,000 undergraduate women involved in their sororities. If you multiply that 400,000 by the low end of 4 dresses per year, that's 1.6 million dresses that need to be procured quickly and efficiently, right? After analyzing our business model, we calculated that there is a $12 million potential of total addressable market. So not only do we want this solution to work, we know it will work because we've gotten community feedback. So in the past week, we launched a landing page to market the release of our app where you can go in, scroll down, you find out who we are and what we want to do for the community, and you can sign up with your email to be put on the waiting list for the early release. In just under a day, we were able to tally up over 100 signups for the release of people who want to have problems just like Mia and want a quick solution.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about business model. Our business model is subscription based with $15 per semester. And to put this to perspective, this is less than a fourth of the average college dress, which can go upwards of $80. So with this, you're going to get complete access to the app, and then you're also going to have the other benefits such as discounts on dry cleaning, exclusive events on your campus, as anyone would want, and then also discounts on sustainable brands as well. All right, so let's look at our competition so far. So when we're looking at competition, we're looking at rental apps as well as swapping apps particularly. And a lot of these are expensive, inconvenient, and not focused towards Gen Z and college students. With price specifically, Rent the Runway costs $100 per month for a subscription. And then with convenience, swap is just, it takes 5 days for a swap because you're doing this not in your community. And then with target demographic, Rent the Runway doesn't have clothes that are dated to right now. Then with ESCRS, we're able to solve all these as it's cheap, convenient, you do your swaps in your community, and it's focused towards college students. Thank you.
Great job on the presentation. So really, really interesting idea. So you've really demonstrated that there's a clear demand side for the problem. Can you talk about some of the challenges or maybe things that you would be anticipating to build the supply side to make sure that there are sufficient dresses or material available for an initial rollout?
Yeah, of course. So for an app that's starting to develop, one of the biggest things, so that is the fact that we did set a $15 subscription. So in our first phase of the app, in our first pilot, when we're working with college campuses, we want to make sure that this app is free completely so we can test out and get that initial inventory. Then after that, we can start to sell and actually have the subscription. And then also, additionally with that, with getting demand also, this is really reliant on making sure that people want to sell their clothes. And the way that we'd be able to do this is by having those trendy events on campus, because I feel like all of us really understand that people want to have, I guess, I think there's a charm in the marketing that we're planning to having these individual events and creating events where people can dress swap, try the app in person, and also get to see some of the exclusive advantages of it.
Maybe just to paraphrase. Yeah, just to paraphrase. So it's guerrilla marketing, or essentially really leaning into the brand element of these reusable clothes, and so to build authenticity that way, to really build the initial set of supply. Is that?
Yes, you're completely right.
All right, thank you.
I had a few questions around the go-to-market piece of it. So as you create the supply and demand, how do you handle the swap? Do you offload that to the users of the app? Do they have to rendezvous and figure out how do you get the dress from one person to the other and back? And then how does the cost of dry cleaning affect every swap?
All right, so dry cleaning, first of all, is not included within every swap. However, we do offer campus, campus dry cleaning as well. That's just going to be extra bonus. We'll partner with dry cleaners downtown, that kind of thing. But specifically, could you repeat your first question?
So when it comes to, all right, you have a dress, there's someone within your social group, not a friend, right? How do you get the dress from one person to the other?
Yeah, that's going to be managed by you two. Specifically, you can use the chat to specifically manage that. However, we would not be taking on any of the risk. But one of the caveats of that is, first of all, since these are people who are going to be your friends and they're already going to be people in your sororities or social groups, is that sort of sense of social responsibility that does ground the app. However, if we were to think about solutions to specifically, decreasing risk and making sure that participants are able to make sure that their clothes are insured, we're thinking of adding some sort of insurance as well in order to make sure that your clothes are being taken care of.
Nice presentation. So you talked about a $12 million opportunity. So if I'm doing the numbers, it's $60 a year, right? $15 a quarter?
It is $15. Okay, so it's $15 a semester.
A semester.
So that's going to be, think of it as 6-month periods, as there's, especially if we're looking at Penn State's current academic calendar, that's about half and half of a year.
Okay, so we're talking $30 here.
Mm-hmm.
So then the total available market you said was 400,000 potential women?
Yes, when we're looking specifically at sorority girls, yes. But however, that can expand to people who are outside the demographic.
Okay, so your total available market is 12 million. What do you expect that you would get out of that total market?
Yeah, of course. So when we are putting in estimates to figure out our ARR, I'm forgetting specifically that like the not abbreviated version of that. We are looking at 3% of the 400,000. So then that would be about, I think, 20,000 people. 20,000 times 30 is, I believe, 600,000 still per year.
Thank you for clarifying.
I got 3 sons. I don't know anything about this.
That's why you don't have a dress.
That's why I don't have a dress.
Great presentation. Question of like, why go to your app instead of like just making like a Facebook group or something like that?
Yeah, of course. So it's mostly about specificity. Definitely pronouncing that wrong, but with the app, we're specifically focusing on clothes in particular. So you're only posting clothes that you can borrow or sell. And then that gets rid of the fact that you're going to be, and because of that, we're going to be able to primarily show clothes and have that sort of like search bar of items. I don't know if any of you guys want to add on to that.
So ESDRS caters specifically to undergraduate students, right? So when you're an undergraduate student, you have your student email that you can only hold while you're a student. And so there are certain sites like Student Beans that offers discounts if you're a student. You have to verify your student. Our app specifically, like I said, I'm gonna reiterate, is for students, and we offer that sort of sense of community and security. Whereas, like you said, why can't you just create a Facebook group? It's like, why couldn't I just text Mia, right? So the thing is like, for us, we wanted to create a more connected community and be able to bridge people who are looking for clothing and keep it specific in like one place. If that's pretty much like my pants. These are Mia's, right? My blazer, this is my mom's. My dress shirt, my sister's, right? But the thing is my mom's at home, my sister's at Virginia Tech, and Mia lives 2 miles from me, right? I had to figure out how to get that to and from. I had to drive 4.5, 5 hours from here to Maryland to go get this for my mom. And it's just like, I could have just done that with another girl in the community, right? So we wanted to create a safer, more connected way to solve issues as simple as this.
Angie's shirt is also mine, by the way. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. We are Team Krypton, and before I start, I want to ask you guys something. Who here has had their email, bank account, social media hacked in recently? Yeah, there's a lot of us, and that's the issue. Today, we use password to protect integral information in our lives, our work, our money, our bank account, and even our identity. But at the end of the day, password is just a secret waiting to be stolen. Uh, this is where Krypton comes in. Our motto is simple: stop using passwords and start verifying identity. As you can see, passwords can be stolen, servers can be hacked, accounts can be compromised, and even your identity can be stolen. Now, I want you to imagine this in a real world scenario. As you can see, Aura, one of the fastest growing security firms, reports a data breach involving 900 records. Another, Navia, reports a data breach of 2.7 million records. Even an open source software like OpenClaw can be subjected to hacking. Now I want you ask the panel, if a data breach happens in your respective companies, how much would be the damage? I assume it will be substantial, right? This is where, as you can see, the average cost of a data breach is $4.4 million. This is because passwords were never meant to be the foundation of a modern digital security. This is why we propose Krypton. Now we will explain how Krypton works.
Thank you for that. So now the question, that stands is, what is Krypton? Well, Krypton is one system with multiple high-risk use cases. It can help with passwordless logins. It can help with API security. It can help with your internal access. It can help with device communication and many, many more applications. In short, Krypton is trying to replace your passwords with one digital identity. So why Krypton? Well, the thing is, most traditional security systems, they tend to relate your identity with your password and your credentials. However, here at Krypton, we want to get rid of passwords and credentials. We want to relate your identity with you, the user, and your secure, trusted device. This makes Krypton phishing resistant, replay resistant, device bound, fully enforceable, and revocable at any moment. So how does Krypton change the identity model? Well, again, like I explained before, most of our competitors still rely on credentials and passwords. Like, for example, let's take 1Password. 1Password relies on your identity, just autofills your identity, your password, and your credentials into any website you're logging into. Or even a device-based authentication system such as Collide. Well, Collide is device trust. It is device-based. However, it doesn't look at you, the user. Device trust isn't identity. It just looks at the device posture. It checks if the software with the device is compatible with the server. If the device is authorized to connect to the server, that's it. It doesn't look at you, the user. And here at Krypton, we want to change that. So IT is the solution. And IT plays a fundamental role in Krypton's foundation. Krypton employs cryptography. It has secure hardware. It also uses policy control. All the device keys are stored locally on the device. Every action is verified. And everything is logged and accounted just for accountability. And now I'd like to pass the mic to Aryan to explain our business model.
Right. So to introduce our customer base, we need to first understand what Krypton is for. It's for high-risk accounts where one account takeover could damage businesses. We have fintech platforms where money movement is very important. If a transactional account has been compromised, the damages are real. With SAS platforms, we have control systems which are there to, sorry about that, very sorry. We have SAS platforms which have the entire control systems where the admin accounts which are taken over could expose entire businesses and take down the entire business. Institutions where sensitive data and infrastructure is key, which makes them high-value targets for attackers. This is why we integrate our product into admin panels, internal tools, cloud infrastructure, and financial panels, where the identity is the main thing. If that fails, your entire thing goes down. To explain our business model, I would like to explain the fact that our core strategy is first we land the product, then we expand, and then we start to monetize. We have the freemium model, which works as a friction reducer where the teams can try out a product. We have the starter model priced at $499, which makes it a sweet spot where it's low enough for adoption, but high enough to show that we have a real secure value. Growth for scaling companies to expand their reach. And as we expand more, we enter the enterprise where more users, more device, and better risk compliance. Our revenue will be simple as we start through the validation phase, where we take the starter model, where we get $500 to $3,000 a year, moving on. So we have the growth where we have the 200 to 50 to 200 users, making an annual revenue of 6,000 to 20,000. And then we have the enterprise, which leads us to 50 to 100K a year. To conclude, I would like to say that Krypton is the future. We treat identity as infrastructure that are proven by devices, keys, and cryptographic proof. Thank you.
Great presentation. Question for instances where you may have multiple people sharing a set of credentials for like a business email or sharing Netflix credentials with your family. How would people go about that?
if we have more users, we actually have a live demo. Could you just do the website? So we actually have a live demo in which you can assign different roles in the family. They are like, the website could work, just a second. So I'll just explain it till it's working. So basically we have like 4, in which is the viewer, which has the lowest permission, then it's security analyst, then it's admin, and then it's super admin. Super admin has all the accesses, while viewer has only 3. So that is how in a company we can manage what permissions every person has. Okay.
Great presentation. Can you explain to me how this differs from a passkey type solution that uses like a biometric and then has a trusted device?
Right. So it's built upon the passkey solution in itself. Currently, we do not have a cryptographic proof for sorts because it takes time to build that. So we have a MVP model which takes in passkey, verifies your face, thumbprint, and etc., and then logs you in directly through it. Later on, we plan to make it more secure through a device-bound cryptographic key.
So you're very similar to like a one pass or last pass?
One pass, and although it's use credentials, which are stored through a passkey rather than just a passkey in itself. So we directly log in through the passkey instead of like having a username or a credential stored, which is referenced back in.
Tell me a little bit about who your first customers would be. Going after the big banks in our money transaction is probably not a good first start, right? So, walk me through your thinking of how do you prove this out? Who would you go after in terms of your really initial target market?
So the target market was essentially be startups and developers who do not have the bandwidth to buy an expensive security firm to make sure that cybersecurity and their APIs and everything secure. So we target those developers, and later on when they become integrated in our infrastructure, we expand to fintech platforms and all the SAS managements and financial institutions.
Thank you very much, Team Crypto. Next up, Team DigiLib.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amartya.
I'm Adara. And I'm Sharvari.
And this is DigiLib, the better way to research.
So, how many of you here have found yourselves with 30 tabs open working on a research project, switching between different resources? Almost all of us. This was me last year working on a research project for one of my classes. I had Perplexity open, I had Google Scholar open, I had Penn State Libraries open. The problem is research is slow. There are so many tools that we can use, and especially in the early stages, ideation is really hard. Trying to figure out exactly what I'm trying to research, coming up with a research question takes so long. And what takes even longer is once I have my research question, finding all the resources I need to move forward. So then I was like, okay, what if I use, LLMs, generative AI? What if I go to ChatGPT and Claude? Here's the thing, AI is not exactly built for academia. It sort of thinks for you. It's not exactly your original work. It generates answers for you without sources that you can directly verify. And on top of that, especially in an academic setting, it doesn't really align with academic integrity principles. So I was like, okay, I need a good solution for this. And that's how our product, DigiLib, was born. And you'll see throughout the rest of this presentation exactly how integral the role of IT is to our product.
So we have DigiLib, right? But before we get to that, there are 3 foundational frameworks that we designed to make DigiLib such an excellent tool. System number 1 is Finder. So this is a search engine that is optimized for finding the right material for you. That's what it does. That's Finder. That was system number 1 that we had to develop because finding good resources is super important in a research project. Number 2 was Researcher. We wanted to use an LLM's ability to reason, summarize, and distill information. So we had a researcher element. Then number 3 was export. We wanted a way, and we, like when you guys use 30 tabs, have a place to summarize all the information. So when you get started writing, it's convenient. So up is down and what? Okay. This is what, wow, it's really small. This is what the project looks like. So let me walk you through how we'd use the product. So here, you would enter in your research question or research prompt or something you want to learn. And what happens is we use Finder to go through and find results of research material that is most relevant to you. And then we have Researcher, which is a reasoning model that distills that information down to actionable steps. If you see the response, it's not trying to do any work for you. Its aim is to guide you towards the right resources. And that's what it's built for. So now, after you're done, and the super cool part is you can ask more questions. You can give it more context. And it can do more searches and find the right material for you. And as you can see on the Finder, you can add papers into bag on the top right, and you can click export. So when you click export, along with being a comprehensive report, this system also acts as AI accountability. Wow, that's light in my eyes. Imagine you attach this along with your assignment. For the first time, a professor or a grader can knows how much or how you're using AI to assist in your assignment. And this is super powerful for AI accountability.
To kind of talk a bit about our competitors, as you can see on the screen, we currently have a lot of amazing resources that students use. For example, a research student might use Penn State Libraries or Google Scholar to find research articles. But the issue with that is it's sometimes messy. Similarly, they might use Perplexity or ChatGPT to get answers for these research articles or whatever it is. It's kind of like that. It's a different kind of messy that they have to deal with. We are not trying to compete with these amazing resources. Instead, what we are building is something that is a combination, taking their best features into account and putting that into one product, which is DigiLib. Just to iterate, yeah, we're not competing. We're kind of merging the best products into one.
That way. Left.
Thank you. Currently, we have 3 steps on how to monetize. The very first step is the free version. We go to a bunch of classrooms, give them our product, and currently we have 1 classroom on lockdown that we're going to start testing with in a couple of weeks, we believe. We gather a bunch of data from them just to get an idea of how people like it, go back, get their feedback, edit it, things like that. We went to the second step where we are charging them $8 a month for this. In this kind of phase, students can access their account, make customizations, and experience the different kind of features that we're going to create. With this, we're going to have a strong user base created, which we can present and bring on to step 3, which is to sell our license. Our plan is to create a license that we're going to sell to Penn State, and our whole goal here is to kind of make it a Penn State infrastructure.
So if you liked what you heard, DigiLib is live. I'll give you a second to note down that URL. It's really great for research and stuff. I use it all the time. A lot of our friends use it.
Oh, that's the site pulled up live.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Feel free to visit it. And yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great presentation. So you talked about, and congratulations on already having it kind of in a single classroom for use. So can you talk about what are the top 1 or 2 things you're hoping to learn from your first 50 users?
That's an excellent question. So what we recognized is we had a few testers in IST, in bio, and we found this tool was really powerful for bio and psych than IST because we have IST background. So that's kind of the mindset that we think of. So we want to see how people respond to using this tool versus other LLMs, right? If they say, hey, I love using DigiLib, but I always fall back to Claude, then that's something that we have to look into to see what we can change. And looking at resource outputs. Honestly, we've built this platform. We want to see what people think about it. And that's to gauge the general perspective is kind of what we're aiming for.
Another really important thing that we're looking to gather from our research is exactly the kind of use cases that people see for this. We are implementing in classrooms. We do want to have people do assignments with DigiLib, but are they going outside of the classroom to work on personal research projects with this? That's another metric that we're aiming to come at.
Thanks. For your nice job on the presentation. For your revenue model, you're charging $8 per month, right? And this is, if I'm not mistaken, kind of an aggregate above multiple different LLMs and agentic services. How does $8 a month cover token costs, or do you see some sort of subsidization for that cost?
So a few things. One is we are currently using open source models, so that is cheaper. We've built on our agentic framework, so it's free, the framework that we have. And our goal isn't to end with $8 a month. And even that is an arbitrary number. Why we use that number is we want to see initial test cases, because there's only so much we can put into the company. Look at hosting costs, because we're hosting it on AWS App Runner, which is, again, cheaper. So we found the cheapest of the cheapest way to give a reliable service. Our objective with $8 is to just barely cover the operational costs so that we can gain a strong enough user base to then go to Penn State and say, hey, we got a lot of people on this application. You want to collab with us? Right? That's our leverage. We want to get to a point of leverage. That's the idea with the $8.
So your user costs you $8 per month in average token costs. So you're breaking even on the user just to grow the market.
Exactly.
Okay.
Nice presentation. So if I understood correctly, you're saying that the competition, there isn't competition per se for what you're offering. The competition is these individual Google, Scholar, et cetera. If you are successful with this, which we hope you are, what are the barriers for someone else? What barriers do you have to prevent someone else from replicating what you're doing?
That's an excellent question. And I think something we've looked into, I mean, because this is all so new for us, we looked into, can we patent this thing? Can we put a copyright? But we found out it takes so long that there will be competitors who will outpace us. So the only way we can protect our idea is speed. When even at a size of companies like Google or Perplexity, if you have a product that no one's heard about, but it's already in all the universities in the Northeast, that gives credibility that other companies don't have. And one of our highest leverage points that we want to kind of flex on is have the data stored locally. AI governance is such a huge issue for institutions. They want to store sensitive student data on-prem. And not a lot of services are offering that because the money's in the data. And we want to make our money off the university licenses. So we can have universities host their data infrastructure. And again, having these leverage points that is academia friendly and speed is basically what we want to do to be so big that it's stupid to compete. This is the idea. Yeah.
So my only question is, by the way, I think it's a fascinating idea, but you didn't talk about the market opportunity in terms of dollars. So if I was going to invest in you, I'd want to know what I mean, is this a $5,000 market, a $5 million market, a $50 million market? How big do you think it can be in terms of opportunity for your DigiLab or DigiLib?
So I think putting a number, if I say $15 million, for a test technology that is frankly untested, I don't think giving a number in any way is representative. I think it's truly representative of the scope. When we have a product that a lot of people are using, then we can put whatever number we want to a university and say, we have student data, we have the users. That's our leverage point. And our goal is that every university in the United States should have DigiLib. That's our
every
target.
university.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, we don't have any particular dollar amount to put that.
So they're not
simply.
spending money on this today is the problem of putting a number on it, right? That you're not replacing something they're doing already from a spend standpoint.
Yeah.
This would be net new spend for universities.
But from the talk we're hearing at Penn State and with the new provost, they want to spend some money. So we want to be the place where they spend money.
They haven't said that in a while, so.
Yeah.
Our last presentation before we retire to judges' chambers to deliberate is Team Stay Stocked.
Hello, my name is Henry and this is Garrett, and today we're excited to present to you Stay Stocked, an innovative solution to the friction between travel and comfort. And these are our beautiful pictures right here. So our problem arose last summer when Garrett and I went on a beach vacation with a bunch of our friends. And like many trips, we wanted to cook a couple meals together throughout the week. But what ended up happening was we kept forgetting items at the grocery store. So instead of enjoying our vacation, we had to go back to the grocery store multiple times throughout the week, which was just ruining it. And this wasn't just an inconvenience, it was very frustrating. But then this is when it really clicked. We realized it wasn't just a one-time specific issue that we were experiencing, but rather a universal pain point in the vacation rental process. Vacation rental guests often face or lose valuable time on day one grocery shopping because they're either in an unfamiliar area, they forget items, or they simply underestimate how much they need to cook these meals. And for vacation rental hosts, this can weaken their guest experience by impacting ratings and repeat bookings, which are crucial drivers in their own revenue.
Now, imagine arriving at your vacation rental, opening the fridge, and everything you need for your stay is already there. Your groceries are stocked, your meals are planned, and all that's left for you to do is go and enjoy your vacation. So StayStock solves this by pre-stocking vacation rentals before guests arrive. Guests receive a unique shopping link from the host where they can shop manually or use our AI meal planner where they can input trip details and generate an optimized grocery list and meal plan for their trip. Stockers will then shop the order and stock the property before check-in. And for hosts, we offer synced bookings, order tracking, automated guest links, and optional smart lock integration, all through one host dashboard.
Now, this is already a large and proven market. The United States vacation rental market exceeds $121 billion, with 64 million annual users on sites like Airbnb and Vrbo. There are 25 million short-term vacation rental listings in the United States alone, and people already spend heavily on food delivery services, making this behavior normalized. So in terms of our target audience, StayStocked has two types of customers, one being the vacation rental host and the other being the rental guest. StayStocked offers an attractive way for the rental host to differentiate themselves from their competitors through offering our service in their properties. And initially, we like to target rental hosts who have multiple properties as well as property management companies, as this will allow us to gain traction quickly because scalability is a key factor in our revenue process. And then for rental guests, we would target large groups such as families or friend groups, as these types of customers would benefit the most from having a seamless grocery shopping experience during their vacation.
So StayStock's competitive advantage comes from our position within the market, not just the features that we offer. So first, we extend the typical grocery delivery by adding that in-home stocking aspect. And that's what separates us from companies like Instacart and Shipt, who focus solely on delivery, while we would handle the delivery and the in-home stocking. Secondly, we're platform independent. We integrate using iCal, which means we can operate across Airbnb, Vrbo, and even direct bookings, which provides us with a lot more flexibility and reach. Lastly, we're operating a three-sided platform connecting guests, hosts, and stockers. So as more hosts join the platform and order volume increases, a larger pool of stockers will be supported, meaning better overall fulfillment. Now, how does StayStocked actually work? The process begins with the host registering and connecting their properties via their iCal link. And this allows our system to continuously pull booking data like check-in and check-out data, and then using that, our system can generate a unique shopping link specific to that property and that booking. Using that link, guests can then shop manually or use our AI meal planner where they can input trip details, meal preferences, and dietary needs, and that'll be used to generate a custom optimized grocery list and meal plan specific to their trip. Once an order is placed, our system will track the order, assign it to a stocker, and schedule a delivery window based on when that guest is checking in and the host's cleaning window. If the host has a smart lock, our system can generate a one-time passcode that allows stockers to enter the property only during that designated delivery window. Stockers will then shop for the order and stock the property before guests check in and take photos of their work to ensure quality. And so the role of IT in StayStocked is really what enables that real-time booking integration, order tracking, secure property asset access, and automated guest links.
Next, I'll discuss how our company will actually make money. So StayStocked will charge 15% of the total cost of a grocery order, plus an additional flat fee of $25 that will act as the base wage for our stocker. We'll then combine these two fees together to form what we call our convenience fee that the customer will see at the end of the checkout process. And additionally, all stockers will keep 100% of the tips that they make. So a family of 4 typically spends between $150 to $300 on a normal grocery order for the week. So using this $200 grocery order as an example, the customer will pay a $55 convenience fee. And then let's say the customer decides to tip a default amount of $15. The stocker will make the $25 base wage plus a $15 tip, meaning they earn $40 for this order alone. And then based off StayStock's 15% service fee, StayStock will profit $30 off of this order. And this pricing model is advantageous compared to our competitors because on average, our stockers make more while maintaining similar profit margins.
All right, and then on this page, we have a demo. If you can play that real quick.
Mike, oh, sorry.
All right, so here you can see an example of a host dashboard with that integrated iCal link so they can send a guest. Here you can see a guest choosing between an AI meal planner and regular shopping. And so this is where they're setting the parameters for that grocery list and meal plan like price. And that's all fully customizable if it makes any mistakes. And then here you can see it going to the manual shopping, just like a typical DoorDash, Uber Eats order. They can select their groceries, tip amount, and see the delivery window. And then here's an example of a stocker dashboard where you can see their expected earnings what the orders look like. Now, at StayStock, we don't just deliver your groceries, we deliver the start to your vacation. Thank you.
Nicely done on the presentation, gentlemen. My question would start with the stockers, and what's the time from the start of their shopping experience to stocked, and is the payment that you're giving them enough to incentivize them over like an Instacart, right? Because Instacart, you just drop it off, take the picture, and leave. They're taking an extra step to go into the property, put the stuff away, and taking like a different job essentially, right?
Yeah, so I'll start and then Henry probably has something to add too. So the hard problem is that delivery window that I mentioned, right? So we have to schedule that between the host cleaning window when people come to clean the property and when the guests actually check in for delivery. And so on average, that's going to take about 2 hours of time. And so based on a typical order, Henry will probably add on to this, they'll be making more on average than the typical DoorDash driver, and like anything like that, they'll be making more than that, right? And so we're offering a more monetary gain for the time that they're spending.
Yeah, so through our research, an Instacart driver, for example, they would have a base pay between $5 and $10. And so our base pay of $25 is a significant increase of that. And then additionally, because this is essentially like a concierge service available to anyone, people are more willing to tip larger amounts for a service such as this.
Just to clarify, the stalkers would be working for your company, or how are you sourcing stalkers and making sure they're not creepsters going into the house, right? I mean, all that kind of security stuff.
Yeah. So they would be technically independent contractors, similar to these food delivery services you guys are talking about. But yeah, we would do heavy criminal background checks on them. And we'd also have a rating system for the host and the guests. So let's say a stalker has a 2-star rating system, the host can deny them, and then they would get another stalker on top of that.
And also to start out, when we're building this from the ground up, a lot of that stocking is going to be done like by us, right? So like we aren't going to immediately be able to hire people like that. So we would be doing that work ourselves and kind of building that training regimen so that we can build the stalkers into what we expect from them, right? As well as, deciding what's the most appropriate way to do background checks and ensure that's not people that shouldn't be there.
And one more question. Given all the rentals that occur, do you have any sense for what % of them would want this kind of concierge service?
Sure. So we actually have a friend. So we're from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we have a friend whose family owns a property management company. They have numerous different properties in Lancaster as well as Delaware. And so a while back, they used to do a similar process where they would text the guest that was arriving and asking them if they wanted to stock the fridge for them, right? But they realized pretty quickly that they don't really have a lot of time for that, especially with all these different properties in all these different states, right? And so Our plan is to actually begin that process with them, as they already have a network of properties and network of people who also own properties. And so from what we've had conversations with them, and they've also kind of floated the idea to other people in that kind of area, and they seem pretty interested. So thank you.
Nice presentation, guys. How do you ensure that what I'm ordering is what I'm going to get? Because every grocery store, whether it's a local IGA or a much larger store, it's kind of a variety of items and might not have what I want. How do I know that before I order?
Yeah, so the guests would order 1 to 2 weeks ahead of time, and then the stocker will pick that up 2 or 1 day before the guests would arrive. And so in between, or on the 2 to 1 days before, there is an option. So let's say like you order a type of rice, but they don't have it at a grocery store. The guests will be given a chance to substitute that for another brand of rice or just delete it off of their cart entirely.
And two, because we're, this is very like bottom level, right? We're not directly integrating with those supermarkets. We're not integrating with Target. So we can't actually see what their availability is for items. And so our process would really be, okay, here's your list of groceries that you need to get for this person. Do your best to find it. If you need to make any substitutions, reach out to the guest and figure out what they would prefer. And you would be able to put those in yourself as well.
As far as stocking goes, do you envision like the person who is stocking is now like putting things away in different cabinets? Or like, am I just putting the cold things, the perishable things in the fridge and then just leaving the rest on the counter? Like, how does that work?
So I was mentioning that like kind of like training regimen before. So an idea that we floated initially was like when you have a DoorDash driver or a DoorDash delivery driver, right? They have their app and it kind of guides them through the process. So for the stocker in this case, that would be more like focused on like food safety, right? Because there's certain ways you can stock a fridge to make sure the food in there is not going bad and stuff. And then obviously for stocking the pantries and stuff, that's a lot more simpler. But like we'll be ensuring that they have this knowledge before they're actually able to become a stalker, but then that they also have that knowledge on the go so that they can consider that along the way.
One more question. So you started the story with, because we've all done it, right? We go to the grocery store day one, and we forget something, and we got to run back. You can do that as well when you input a list. Does the AI end of this sort of make suggestions and say, oh, you forgot the mustard? We don't see, you're having pretzels and mustard. I don't know what, right? And you forgot the mustard. How do you actually help, not forget the things that you're going to forget probably even if you did it yourself?
Yeah, that's a good point that I actually hadn't really thought about. More the list is more so to kind of take in the parameters like your actual trip, like where you're going, your types of meal preferences and stuff like that, and then generate a list based off of that. But I mentioned during the demo that whole list is fully customizable, so you can interchange between the manual shopping and the actual list generation and such, right? But the AI is more of like a suggestion for what you should be bringing, and so that would kind of be what we're hoping to eliminate. Is like it would be, you're forgetting. Why'd you forget the chicken? We'll put that on there just so you.
Butter.
Yeah.
Okay, would be helpful. Thanks. Really good.
One last question. Since you guys are going to kind of be doing this yourselves, right? And this is more or less like a dual-sided market. You have both customers and then workers. Where is your target area to start this? Like, where do you see the biggest opportunity for these sort of high-end vacation rentals?
I would say our initial target area, we would have a test city or a test area that we would do it, and that'd probably be a beach city on the East Coast since we're kind of close to that, so we can monitor what's happening. And then we would kind of do like what Dave said earlier, a guerrilla marketing campaign and call around and get these properties to agree to use our service. And we'll test that, see what works, see what doesn't, and we'll expand further.
Yeah, and like we said, for this to be actually like feasible, I think it like even though Lancaster County, obviously, you're not typically thinking about getting an Airbnb there unless you really want to see the Amish. They're not that cool, but unless you're going there to get a property, right? That's not a super good gauge of what is possible, right? So it actually works out with those people I was mentioning before. They have properties that's like he was saying in like Bethany Beach area that we can try that out, which will be really valuable to see.
Great. Thank you, team. Stay stuck. So thank you all very much. Our food has stayed stocked. So please, while the judges are headed downstairs to deliberate, we'll proceed with all due haste. Please grab some food or drinks, chat amongst yourselves. Judges will be heading downstairs with Joni and Leah to deliberate, and then we'll return soon to announce the winners. Okay, everybody, now the moment you've been waiting for. We'll announce the winners from tonight's competition. First up is the Dave Hall Award, named in honor of a former dean and a great colleague in the College of IST. This is awarded to the student team that best exemplifies collaboration and innovation within an interdisciplinary team. And the winner is ESDR. And now our top three team awards. Each of the teams will receive expense reimbursements to further their business idea. Third place, $1,000. Second place, $2,000. And first place, $3,000. And we're going to ask that all of the teams, including Team ESRS, stay after the conclusion of the event for group photos. And our first place team will be asked to participate in a video interview as part of Penn State Startup Week as well. And all the teams, I've communicated the invitation for you for tomorrow's Startup Week reception right back here. Third place goes to Stay Stocked. We'll do that. Okay, you're good. Yeah. Don't deposit that. Actually, thank you. Okay. Second place goes to Team DigiLib. Congratulations.
Yes.
Okay, all set. And our first place team, and I should mention for all of the award winners, the judges, they had such great things to say about all of the teams, and it was a very difficult choice to make. All the teams had great things to recommend them. And so it's with a great degree of pride that I announce our first place team, Medusa.
Wait, where do we look? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, congratulations to all the teams, to everybody who participated. Thank you all so much for attending. Looks like we've still got plenty of food. Please take and feel free to stay after, chat with the teams, chat with our judges. Thank you all again. Have a great night.